Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Harsh Prajapati. Uh, I'm gonna take this webinar now, from now on. So we'll just introduce first that what this presentation or webinar is about. So everybody all over the global understands that what the wildlife is. They have every now and then they must have seen any wild animal, but very few people know like how to conserve them, and especially how to take care of them as far as their health is concerned. Most of us have must have been rescuing with wildlife. Most of must have been treated wildlife, but there are certain ethics and thumb rules that we as a veterinarian or rescuer must understand about it. So based on the knowledge and experience I have gained for this 2 to 3 years of my this uh, practice, I'll be just sharing you all the information. So now we start. So the burning question first one should raise is what exactly is wildlife? Like everyone perceives wildlife as a different point of view. For example, a child might say that only lion and leopard and elephants are wildlife. Some may see the sheep or goat as a wildlife, but to understand it like exactly what it is, we'll have to dig a little bit of our own history. And so, like 2.5 million years ago, we as a species were roaming on this planet, just as the gorilla right now are roaming around in the jungles of Africa. So we were a part of wildlife only, and then as a species, like nearly 20,000 years ago, we started evolving ourselves. We started domesticating some plants and animals, and we started farming it. For example, some crops, and especially in animals, there are sheep, dog, poultry, some birds, dogs. So those have together created an ecosystem, and that is currently we are having our own ecosystem with domesticated animal and uh, human ourselves. So rest of the animal that has not been domesticated from this human species, those are actually called wildlife. That includes all the life form. So the ideal definition of wildlife would be all flora and fauna living in their natural habitat that do not cultivated or domesticated by humans. And based on their characteristics, for example, anatomical and genetical characteristics, the zoologists have classified them, biologists have classified them as a chronological order, and that is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, as all of the biologists wouldn't know about it. So we'll now talk about our own country. So our country is quite rich in biodiversity of wildlife. So we have like more than 1200 birds. We have 340 plus mammals. We have like 240 plus reptiles, in which there are 5 to 6 snakes are there, which are venomous, and rest of them are non-venomous to, at least non-harmful to human beings. So 140 plus amphibians are there. So there are wide variety of amphibians also. Lots of toads and frogs are there. Even Sicilian is one of the amphibian that has been found in our country. In fishes, we have like more than 2,000 species of fishes, and more than 50,000 insects are there in our country. So if one wants to work with wildlife, or even if there is a layman who should know about something about wildlife, is a very basic thing that is, especially in our country, that is Wildlife Protection Act. And before 1970 70s, like people used to destroy wildlife in the name of all these revolution, especially industrialization. So their habitat got lost. Lots of poaching were happening there. So to conserve the wildlife, our country, especially our government, passes a bill in 1972 that is called Wildlife Protection Act. And in under this act, there are lots of control under the hand of government who can control any species to like to make to fall in them certain schedules. For example, they can schedule. They have already scheduled 1 to 5 and 1 to 6 actually. And in every schedule there are various species. They can declare any wildlife protected areas in which you cannot hunt or do any illegal activity that might hurt any nature, any plant, any insect, or any wild animal. So their work basically includes to act against any unlawful activity that has been related to wildlife or nature. And so we'll see about species that has been included in various schedules. So there are lots of schedules. There are lots of species are there, but I couldn't include all of them. But some generally known species I have included. So like in schedule one, there are basically all big cats are there. Chinka is there, pangolin, Indian bison, elephant, wild ass, one-hand rhinoceros, sloth deer, swamp deer, even great Indian bustard, then parakeet, that is Alexandrine parakeet, soft shell turtles, certain snakes, especially python, that has been included in schedule one. In schedule two, there are almost the monkeys that have been seen around our locality, like bonnet macaque, rhesus macaque, or common langur, we can say, wild dog, chameleons, spiny-tailed lizard, Himalayan black bear, jungle cat, Indian cobra, king cobra, Russell's viper, all of them are included in schedule two. In schedule 3, there are barking deer, spotted deer, hyena, nilgai, sambar. Schedule 4 includes hedgehog, mongoose, Indian porcupine, bulbul, flycatchers, flamingos, and kingfishers. Schedule 5, there are common crow, fruit bat, mice, rat. So all of these schedules actually are dependent on the vulnerability of animals. So, for example, tigers, lions, and even pangolin are so much vulnerable that they have been going through lots of poaching has been happening. Concern to those animals, for example, sloth bears also. So all of these animals' vulnerability and their population in wild actually they include it in criteria to differentiate the various schedules. So what are the like current threats to wildlife? So people are still keeping some wildlife scheduled animals as a pet. For example, you can see in the left one image there is a parakeet has been kept as a captive. There is a scheduled species, that is a scheduled species actually. Then lots of man-animal conflicts are happening. You can see some people have killed a python near the locality. Madari culture was also one of the main concern, one of the main threats to wildlife. So you can see the charmer is playing with mongoose and checker tailback snake. Even transportation nowadays, like transportation has been increased and lots and lots of habitats are being destroyed. So when the animal crosses the road, and if that particular species is a scheduled species and someone hits and kills it and runs, then government may act upon them. So these are some extra examples. Like you can see, two peoples has been caught by government forest officials. They were seen cooking this mongoose and monitor lizard. You can see how various equipments they are using. Another poacher is there who has kept this macaque as a captivity. Another threat is like photography. I would like to include as a threat because, like, in case of capturing a perfect picture, lots and lots of photographers they cross their limit. So here you can see like 10 to 15 photographers are there capturing. There was a nest of some bird, and they were capturing it. So it actually disturbs that particular bird, and that bird may leave that place, and that may never come again. So photograph like this trend is increasing now day by day. So every photographer, I would like to say, like, you just know your limits and ethics of this wildlife photography. So now we'll focus on our this main subject, that is rescue operation. So what can be the reason of rescue? Animal might be rejected socially. They might have get orphaned. Then there may be any infight, and then animal might have been rejected by their whole crowd or family. There might be any accidental injury. There might be electrocution injury in human habitat. Someone might have kept animal as a captive. Man-animal conflict, especially in case of leopard and some other big carnivores, you can see lots and lots of man-animal conflicts are happening. So there might be a animal that has been stuck in some human habitation. So all of this, if there is any of this is there, then you must go for a rescue of animal. So you can see some of the examples, like there is a langur has been stuck in someone's home. The python that has been fallen into the well. You can see strangled leopard cub that has been strangled into the nets that has been applied by these farmers. They applied in the farmers who are living especially near jungle area. They apply these fences to prevent ungulates from disturbing their crops. So these are some important points to keep in mind. Another image that there is a monkey langur there is, and which has been electrocuted. So, like when we are talking about rescue, then there will never be a perfect rescue. There will always be something left, because you might not know that what is going to be the situation there. So there are certain points are there to keep in mind, like how to carry out nearly a perfect rescue. So 3 points are there: planning, equipment, and approach. So we'll go one by one. So planning is basically the first step you when you receive a call of rescue, when you get to know that some animal needs any help. So what you'll do first is you will plan, and what you'll consider in planning a rescue operation is whom you are gonna be with. Like you must be having idea of a team you are gonna need. For example, there might need any particular handler of animal, that depends on the species. So if there is a rescue of crocodile, you might keep someone with you who knows how to handle a crocodile better. You must be having a veterinary assistant. You must be having forest officials like DFO, range forest officer, or assistant conservator of forest. So those forest officials are actually needed if there is a scheduled animal. So you must keep in mind that during planning your rescue operation, you must contact a forest official first, and then you must have different expert persons with you. And before going through all of these things, you must have understanding of the stress word. So like all of us have heard that animal will be in stress, animal will be stressed, do not do this, do not do that, like animal will be in stress. So what is actually the stress word mean? So that is a change in its physiological, psychological, and physical well-being of animal when they are afraid, when there is any stressor that has been activated, and that may affect as a stress. And that example of the stresses can be anything like bad handling, habitat destruction of any wild species. That if that animal is stuck in someone's home, then there will be a level of stress, and there is an release of steroidal hormone in the body, so that eventually causes to decrease immunity of animal, and that may be prolonged like to up to like 30 days. So when animal is under stress, there will be a ataxia, there will be a there may be hypothermia, there may be hyperthermia. Their serum kidney function test, when you do it, then all serum hormonal values and enzyme values will be increased. So you can you can have idea about stress before going to plan a rescue operation. And another thing to keep in mind is knowledge of a natural history. If you are living in particular area, And this applies to not only to a veterinarian actually, all of as a rescuer, as a biologist, as a any naturalist who works as a rescue as a volunteer in a rescue operation. They must know the natural history of any locality they are living with. So if anyone is living in jungle, nearby jungle area, he must know, like, I have around me these kind of species are there, so he may plan better. Always you have to consider species. You may know by call, or when someone calls you for rescue, you must have an idea about at least a species. This species is there, so you may consider which species is there, and then you can have a plan according to it. Area consideration, in which area you are going to rescue. If there is a human habitation, then there will be lots and lots of people intervention will be there. So you may want to be a police protection with you. If there is a jungle area, then there must be you must be well equipped. You must consider time and weather. Like you would never want to rescue a animal that has been in the afternoon of summer. Then there will be a lots of stress and hyperthermia can happen, and you may disturb that whole procedure. So another thing to consider is human safety. Whenever you are going to rescue, especially big carnivores, always consider human safety first. Then you can proceed along. So about equipments, there are so you must consider different equipment as per the species you are going to deal with. So in general, I have enlisted all the equipments you may need while you are going to rescue. So there are cages, various kinds of cages that also depend from the species. Ropes, you might have a rescue of animal that has been fallen into well, and you may need ropes. So nets is also one of the main equipment you may have. So there are different kinds of nets and different materials of nets are available. But I would recommend soft material that might not disturb the animal. Dark color cloth will be there, so you might want to cover the eyes first whenever you are approaching an animal. So you may need a dark cloth, snares and hooks in case of crocodile or any other reptile, tranquilizing gun, medical kit if needed, surgical kit if needed, measuring tape must be there. So if you're having any rare species and you want to measure it up, so you may need a measuring tape. You must have GPS reader if you are going to rescuing in unknown area, or in protected area where there is no geographical identification is there. So camera you must have, notebook, and if rescue is going to long laster, you may have water supply and food supply also with you. So these are some examples of equipments you might need. So there, the first image in the left that shows the cage of that is actually a trap cage of leopard. In case of reptiles, you may need this kind of hooks and tongs. The third image from above, that there is a cage that is especially being for has been made for crocodiles, and there is a collapsible cage. You may see people dealing with ropes, so that cage has been tied with rope, and then in the down below the right one, the left one, you can see the cage has been there. So you can also see the use of nets. So this net is very soft material, so the animal might not get any kind of So another point is how will you approach the animal? So three, four points are there. You must keep in mind while you are approaching the animal. So what species you are going to deal with. If you are going to rescue an elephant, then there will be a different approach. If you are going to guard a tiger, then you must be approaching the sitting on any vehicle or elephant, so you might not get attacked. Time you should consider, and situation also. Like again, if that animal is stuck in any home or any room, and that has only one door, then you might consider approaching to that particular animal. Geography also implies, if you are going to dart any animal, then, and if it is like situated very on very high level to you, so there may be failure of darting. So whenever you're going to capture an animal, there are two actually restraint method. One is physical restraint, another is chemical method or chemical immobilization. So we'll go about it one by one. So first we'll go for physical method. Physical method actually, for certain species it is recommended, and it has one drawback, that is it causes a lots and lots of stress to animal. So in case of reptile and especially crocodiles and snakes, you might want to consider handling them physically. There will be a problem when you are capturing or handling physically any wild bird that has no human interaction in their life. So that might be causing lots and lots of stress to wild animal. It requires expertise. If you don't know how to apply snare to any animal, if you don't know how to throw a net to particular animal, then there will be a chance of failure of rescue. So expert person might do the all the restraining procedures. It can be again dangerous for both animal and rescuer if you don't know how to handle any particular venomous snake. For example, Russell's viper is there. So you don't if you don't know, then it can be dangerous for itself and yourself too. So before understanding the ideal handling method, I would like to show you some really bad examples of animals being handled very badly. So the left one image above, you can see the kite has been handled. That is very wrong way. You don't want to handle any bird like this. You don't want to handle snakes like this. You never actually need your hand to handle snake. Monitor lizard, that has been hand handled, that is very wrong way. And down below you can see a person having a great snake on his face. So that is one of the most venomous snake in India. So like there is nothing more to say about it. So now we'll go for some ideal methods of animals being rescued. Species wise we'll know, animal wise we'll see. So first we'll see for reptiles, or in reptiles particularly snakes. So how would you rescue a snake? Again, as I said, there is no need of your hand when you are going to rescue a snake. So there is a black cloth and a pipe that has been placed there nearby wall. So you can make the structure at your home. You can use your pillow cover. You can use gunny bag. You can apply the round, the broad pipe to that gunny bag or any dark color cloth, and you can place it to the corner, and you can guide the snake towards that, and the snake will perceive it as a burrow, and it will try to escape in there, and that then you can keep your hook, just like the volunteer from the Vasundhara Nature Club who has been like doing very wonderful work about wildlife. So like the down below image, he's saying like he's showing you that how to apply an even knot. So you will have to keep your this hook you have already used on it, and then you can apply the knot, so there will be no chance of any danger. Now talking about crocodiles, you must have a snare before it, and when you apply this snare, there are two types of method when you are going to apply the snare. So one, you apply between the jaw, and in another method you are going to apply it on the neck region. So both are used widely in all of our country, but I would recommend the applying snare on the neck region, because when you are applying snare in the uh, whenever you are applying the snare, the crocodile will always try to do death roll to try to escape from it. So it might injure its teeth or its mandible. So just go for neck, and then soon after you have done applying the snare, one person from behind will throw the gunny bag on over his eyes, and then when animal is blindfolded, you can sit on it. When the person is going to sit on it, then he must sit first on its neck. Then few persons, as per the, like, depended on the size of the animal, few persons will sit back behind him, and they will try to control their crocodile's legs. Uh, about big cats or big carnivore animals, to restrain them physically, there is a squeeze cage method that is also widely used in most of the zoos. So it is like normal cage only, but there is one separate wall there. So, and that wall is made up of various combined bars, and it is handled manually. So one will rotate a gear from outward, and that wall will started moving, and animal will eventually get squeezed, and then you can have a little bit time of doing minor procedures, for example blood collection and all. About rescuing birds, you can see one of my colleague, Dr. Nitesh Patel, is handling bird, and which is very ideal method. You always want to cover any bird is there. You always want to cover them with very soft towel, and cover their eyes so they will not get frightened. And always keep them very closer to your body, and control from one hand you can control their legs, and from one hand you can control their wings. If animals, if those birds are large animals, like any raptor is there or any stork is there, then you might want to watch for their beak also, because they might injure you. Okay, so we'll now talk about this chemical restraint or immobilization. So in that, any particular immobilization drug or combination of drugs are used. This method is actually exclusively for veterinarians only, because they have very sound knowledge of how the animal is going to react and how the drug is going to react when it's been darted. Comparative to physical restraining method, it is less risky to particularly animal as well as our team also, because then animal will be unconscious and you will have enough time. Comparatively less stressful also. As I said, it again, it allows access of examination and transportation of animal. So there are some examples of darting equipment. So from left above, you can see there are blowpipes. Blowpipes are usually used in close proximity when animal is very close to you, when in cage or in home. Then you have very easy access to dart them. Then you can use blowpipes. The second image from above, that these guns are like previously used in various zoos and national parks. So there has been separate air pressure pump would be used there to induce some pressure. The green gun and the brown rifle below, those are two different guns that are currently being used. The green one is from Dan Inject company, and the brown one that below there is that is from Tel Inject company. So these two companies are making very good dart gun, and there are actually different parts of them. So there will be a meter, and there will be a gas cartridge. So CO2 gas is usually used in the cartridges, and it will give you some amount of shots. So you can use this gas cartridge, and there is a meter there, so you can maintain the pressure, and the pressure will be dependent on how far the animal is, and there will be a syringe also that will be kept in. So we'll see image first. There is an example of field loaded dart. there are two compartments actually. So you can see the darker part, that is a plunger, and then there is a red part, so that gives stabilization to that. The medicine is injected from above, and the lower compartment is filled with gas, and that is different gas from that gas cartridge. That gas cartridge gives gas to in gun to blow that dart, and this gas works as a throwing plunger up, so that this medicine will be delivered in the animal. Needle has this. So these kind of needle are actually different from the kind of needle we use to inject animals. These needles are it is sharp from above, and there is a two parallel or one hole is there, in which there is a rubber sleeve is applied. So that actually prevents medicine from delivering. So once the dart is darted, when this is injected in the muscles of the animal, this rubber seal will be retreated back, and the medicine will be induced in the muscles of the animal. So about drug should be having this high therapeutic index. It should be very non-irritant to muscles of the animal, because it might then cause irritation, and the animal might not get it might get very alarmed, and there may be a delay in induction of this anesthesia, and then there is also chance of abscess formation. Short induction period should be there, because as far as wildlife is concerned, you don't want to give any animal time to run away. So induction period should be very short. And again, antidote should be available, because once you have done with your work, and if there is any adverse effect of this particular drug you are using, then you must have antidote available with you. Drug must have longer shelf life, because you don't know when the rescue is going to have. Then you must be having good storage, and for good storage you must have longer shelf life of the drug you are using. So there are some types of drugs, and the species, particular species in which particular drugs are used or recommended. So for canine, you must use ketamine, hydrochloride, and xylazine. For feline, also ketamine, xylazine. In almost all the animals, ketamine and xylazine is being used. For especially rhinoceros and elephant, or I would like to say mega herbivores, they are being tranquilized with use of atropine, that is M99. So after you have darted the animal, you must, or captured the animal, there are certain points you must keep in your mind for welfare of both animal and ourselves. Try to approach toward the animal with patience and care. So once you have captured an animal or tranquilized it, you don't want to be in a hurry and just go towards it. It might, if animal is not darted, it might get frightened. If animal is darted, and if not, that has not been proper induction, then it might wake up in between. So you want to approach towards the animal with patience and care. If animal is tranquilized, then first you want to check it with any stimulants. You can have a long stick, and you can just put it the particular tranquilized animal's body, and you can check for reflexes. You can make some other stimulants, so you can correct that particular animal is being tranquilized. Maintain quiet environment about it, because if you make any noise and the animal is tranquilized, and there will be a lots of noise will be there, and animal will get alert, and that there might be a delay in induction of anesthesia. Try to minimize movements while handling or transferring it. Means even after it's being tranquilized, if it is big carnivore, you always tie it with ropes, even if it is tranquilized, and try to minimize the movement while transferring it or handling it, that particular species. So after tranquilizing, you will have ample amount of time of examination. So for examination, you will have to look for injury first. If there is any internal or external injury, you can see. You check temperature, heart rate, pulse rate, respiration. You want to check dehydration. If there is any dehydration, is there mucous membrane? You might check, and you can also look for ectoparasites. So after animal is being caged, again you should always cover the cage with dark color cloth or camouflage color cloth as seen in photograph there. So that will calm down the animal. You can see the image in the left. It is showing that animal can be very aggressive once they are in cage, and they might want to attack on us, and they might get injured themselves. So you always cover the cage first and transfer to after you have done with capturing or transferring that animal to cage. You very immediately want to transfer it to nearest rehabilitation center or rescue center. So again, in reptile, you don't want to transfer it as it is seen in the image left above. You always must have this comforting material or bedding material while you are transferring animal, and the cage should not be having sharp roads and all those things, because you can see in the image down below there is a tortoise which tried to escape and lost all of its scales, and it got injured himself. So after, if you find out any wound or any injury, then there will be first step will be a wound management. So while you are handling with wildlife, always wear protective wear, because you don't know that from which area it is coming and what kind of infectious disease it might be carrying. So always wear protective wears while handling animal, even while handling animal also, and even doing this wound management. So remove the contaminants first, because if there will be any contamination, then there might be abscess formation in animal, and it may lead to more difficulty. Clip the hair, or if it is bird, then remove the hairs from that area of wound, around the area of wound. Collect bacteriological swab. If you want to do antibiotic sensitivity test, then you must collect this swab sample. This use of normal saline, you can use normal saline, or you may dilute potassium permanganate, low amount of potassium permanganate. You can use uh, this betadine, which is povidone iodine. You can dilute them, especially in birds and reptiles. When you're using povidone iodine solution, you might want to dilute it, because it have some toxicity effect in birds and reptiles. In case of, if there is a maggot wound, then you can use chloroform to kill all the maggots. And then when you use forceps to remove the maggots, you must choose very blunt forceps, so that you may prevent any tissue injury. Apply antiseptic powder. You can use antiseptic paste. You can use zinc oxide. So you can apply any antiseptic form, but use sticky form, because you are not going to approach to animal like very frequently. So you always choose any sticky substance that is used as a antiseptic. Take sutures if necessary. As you can see image below, monitor lizard is being sutured. If need, again I'm saying if needed, then go for injection of any antibiotic or painkiller or steroid, because as far as wildlife is concerned, the need of antibiotic is very low in wild animals. So a veterinarian should never use as much as they are using in pet animal or domesticated animals. So if you can avoid it, if there is no necessary of using antibiotic or painkiller or any kind of steroid, then you should avoid it. And if it is necessary, then first you should choose to give it orally, and then to give it like injectable form. So the reason why I was talking about this immunity is it is explained here. So there was a case of lioness which was injured in when it was roaming around the human locality. It got injured while passing through a wired fence. So you can see the widespread wound and amount of injury that lioness is having. So there is comparative size also, and then steroidal use was there. Only one steroidal injection shot, and one shot of antibiotic, and one shot of multivitamin was given, and immediately after it, it was released back into the wild. And when after 6 to 7 months, when we got it down again, as the radio coloring was happening, we had to catch her again for radio coloring, and you can see then that there is not even a scar. You can see only one suture has left there. So you can imagine about the immunity the wildlife has having. So again, always try to minimize use of especially antibiotics when it is about wildlife. So there will be few things you will be encountering. Another the first thing is the shock. So how will you identify that a particular animal is in shock? So if any stressor factor has been working, then animal must be in shock. Animal might have severe blood loss. Animal show very low blood pressure while they are in shock. So always go for fluid therapy while they're in shock. Check for the temperature first, and then choose the fluid therapy you're gonna go. You can always correct blood loss, so you can go for stopping hemorrhage. You can use steroids, particularly in wild animals. You can use steroids while in shock, and you can always use ventilation if you feel that it is necessary. You can use ventilation also. There might be a case of dehydration. In that case, also you might want to give fluid therapy. You might see signs as a fever. Decreased water intake may lead to dehydration. There may be a chronic vomiting. Hyperthermia may be also there. So you can stop using all the immobilizing or tranquilizing agent and steroid. You just first follow the fluid therapy. You recover animal from dehydration, and then go for this steroidal drugs. Another thing I would like to mention here is capture myopathy. So that is actually that happens after stress. This I have mentioned above before. So capture myopathy may last like for up to 30 days, and there might be elevated these serum value levels, and you might get ataxia. There might be hyperthermia. There might be hypothermia. So and you don't know, like, if you are thinking that I'm handling correctly, and you have done one mistake, and you are releasing that animal, that capture myopathy may show sign up to like 1 month also. So you always want to reduce the stress factors around the animal. So you might get orphans also, and orphans especially needs another approach, another attention. So those animals should be kept isolated. There might need frequent feeding as per the age of the animal. If they are too young, then you must want to give them frequent feeding. You should all supplements in of that formulation you have done, because orphan animals will not get the proper nutrition from the feed we are giving. So always go for protective years. You might be giving any infectious disease to young one. So as shown in picture, always wear gloves while you are feeding them. You must be handling them very gently. There will be, as I said, supplementation. Frequent observation should be done for orphans, and minimize the human interaction, because if you are going to rehabilitate back them in the wildlife, then there might be very low human fingerprints on the animal. So that might, if there is a too much human interaction, and then he will be habituated to human only, and that might not survive back in the wildlife. So always minimize human interaction, and keep a single expert keeper. So he will be the one who will always be, and daily he will be dealing with any animal. So if you are going to house any particular for a particular animal for longer time period, then there are certain points you might want to keep in mind. A place should be very protective, especially from natural calamities, from rain or too much sun rays or too much if there is a wind and too much cold is there, then all the facilities should be there that animals get protected from all natural calamities or all natural environmental conditions. Uh, Housing or cage should be suitable for particular species you are dealing with. So again, I'm again repeating that you will have to watch for the species you are dealing with, and as per that species, you are gonna plan whole the management and rescue operation. So always consider the species. Accessible feeding, very much good condition of drainage system, and availability of accessibility in treatment, and watering availability should be there. So these points should be keep in mind when you are arranging all the place for anyone. So to protect particular species from other species, for example, you don't want to keep ungulates to nearby to any leopard, or you don't want to keep any monkey to the leopard's cage. So monkey will get frightened, leopard will be always be alert, and there might be stress induction in both of them. And try to give supplement or medication when you are keeping them for longer period of time. Try to give all supplementation and medicine in the feeding itself, so there will be very less interaction with animal. Never forget to provide enrichment again. So this is one of the important thing to keep in mind. So what enrichment basically means is we are supposed to provide natural like habitat to the into the cage, so that animal, it it is one of the factor that reduces the stress in animal. So when you are dealing with any reptile or bird, if you are kept them as a captive, then you might want to put any wooden block or any branch as a perching object. There must be a uh, different kind of playful instruments you can keep. Say for example, you can see in the image above, the leopard is playing with tire that has been tied in between the cage. You can in large animals, you can large especially big cats, you can keep big wooden blocks. So they like playing with and rubbing their claws into these wooden blocks. So it provides very good enrichment, and animal will have a reduced stress amount. While they are with you in the captivity, you can always go for one thing is without disturbing them. The one thing is go for fecal examination. You can have an idea about their feeding. If they are carnivorous, then you can check for the different kind of hairs, because the hair is the structure that cannot get digested in the feces. So first photograph above from the left, that is a photograph of a feces of a leopard. So you can see there are some strains of hairs are there. So they do not get digested in animal tract, and each and every species has a particular pattern that pattern is there in the hair. So you can always differentiate every species by watching them under microscope. So you can always go for the diet they have been doing. The another image, the second one from the above, that is of deer. So you can see different animal have different kind of feces, and you can also, if you are in wild, it can be helpful if you know the type of feces different species excrete. So it will in the wild or in the field, it will be very helpful if you are knowing it. You can go for parasitic examination if they are having any parasitic infestation. You can see there are load of roundworms that has been collected from the feces of lion. You can always go for examination, microscopic examination, checking for the eggs, parasitic eggs if there are any. Ectoparasites, so there might be a mange infestation, there will be a tick infestation, there will be a flea infestation. So you might want to check for all of them. You keep record, you keep photograph of them. You might come across any new species of parasites that may be not well known. So you can always preserve them in your collection, and go for its identification. Now the last point is rehabilitating wildlife. Rehabilitating simply means reintroducing animal into its natural habitat. So before you go for reintroducing it back to its wild, so you always check for its behavior. You confirm, you check for its health. Go for full body examination if it is needed. You first confirm that particular animal you have kept as it is very much healthy and it is now ready to be released in the wild. Consider species again. Choose correct habitat as per the species. Choose correct timing as per the species. So you don't want to leave any animal that is like nocturnal, and you don't want to release them in the daylight. And again, opposite, if animal is not used to dark, then you want to release them in the morning time, or you should always avoid while releasing animal. Always avoid this afternoon time. You can release them at early morning. Choosing habitat is also important point, because any species has its particular habitat. So you might want to consider it. Provide enough food and water supply before you transport animal while you are going to release it. Release it. Transportation cage or boxes should be having proper ventilation. It should be always covered with dark color cloth or camouflage color cloth. So again, it helps as a stress reducer. Cover the animal is and its cage while transporting. As I said, cage of bird or reptile, you may include any perch in it. So it will be like very helpful for bird. So it may want to hold it while transportation. Take care of animal and human safety while releasing. So you don't want to be in front of animal when it is being released. Either animal might get frightened, you might get frightened. One of them may run and it may attack on human. So don't be around that place when you are releasing it. Very few people should be there while it is being released. Again, if it is any scheduled species, in releasing team also there will be a presence of any forest officials. If there is schedule 1 or schedule 2, there must be a deputy forest officer or this assistant conservator of forest. uh, and in all the procedures, if from animal is from schedule 1 or 2, you always want to include the forest officers in your team, because it comes under Wildlife Protection Act and it comes under the forest department. There are some paperwork you must be doing before releasing, before rescuing. So all of these things you must consider as a veterinarian. uh, Try to keep silence. Don't make any noise, and once it is released in wild, don't just go away or run away releasing it. You just stay there for a while. You observe it, observe its movement, observe that it is comfortable with the environment, and then you can correct this, check it, and then you can leave. So there are some one example is there in which there is a proper habitat. You can see the image in left. The cage is being covered with green cloth. Only slit of it is open, and no human is there. Everyone should be, as far as big cats or wild carnivores, big carnivores are concerned. Everyone wants to be in a vehicle, so never choose to stand outside when it's been released. There is a pulley-like structure you can see, and in second picture, once it gets open, you can see the leopard releasing back in the its proper habitat. So that's it from my side. I am done presenting my all of the experience and knowledge I had.
Hatfield Pharma Private Limited is a pharmaceutical company with its head office at Meerut. It was founded on 29 January 2019 with a vision to provide affordable and quality veterinary medicine to our pet parents. Hatfield Pharma is doing marketing of veterinary pharmaceuticals throughout India. In a small span of 1 year, we have launched 51 products in the veterinary pharma industry to serve our clients. In future 1 year, we are planning to have a product basket of more than 100 products. Hatwit is different from other veterinary pharma companies as we don't have distribution channel. We understand the latest needs of market, and for this reason we have adapted to online module of selling our drugs to field practitioners. We are serving our clients by providing the required medicines at their doorstep without any middleman. We directly collect orders online, mobile app, WhatsApp, telephonic from our end customers, and we deliver the required products to their doorstep through our nationwide logistic partners Blue Dart, DTDC, TCI Express. We are happy to announce that in our client list, most of the leading pet practitioners of India are included. To assure the unbreakable faith of our clients in our company products, we look after the quality of products, starting from selecting the raw material for our final products, aseptic precautions during manufacturing, and proper storage of finished products till supply to the end customers to ensure quality of products. We are happy to share that Hatwit Pharma has been recognized at various business platforms. Recently, an article on Hatwit Pharma has been published in the leading business magazine Business Connect. One more milestone in the success story for Hatwit Pharma is that the managing director of the company, Dr. Rajneesh Tyagi, has been awarded Young Asian Entrepreneurs Award at Bangkok, Thailand on 7 February 2020. Our vision states Hatwit Pharma to be a commercially viable leading veterinary pharmaceutical company in providing quality products affordable to various sections of the pet owners society. Our endeavor is to be a front runner in innovation and quality in the veterinary pharma industry. We see a very bright future for our company as we are working in pet industry, which itself is growing at a higher rate, approximate growth of 20% annually. We are regularly working on the knowing of needs of our customers to serve them in a better way. We value your support to Hatwit Pharma and are very thankful to all of you. We look forward for a very strong and long business association between veterinarians and Hatwit Pharma. Thank you.